Thank you, everyone. This was our final panel of the day. We hope you enjoyed that. That was really fascinating. And thank you for staying with us for the entire day as well. It's really good to see so many of you here. Before I do the first part of our day in terms of a wrap up for it, I just wanted to share a note about the youth IGF. Today you're seeing a lot of new faces that are here at the UK IGF. And there is panelists that have spoken today, for example, Ijan that spoke earlier, who you can see here in the brown jacket, who is looking to establish a UK youth IGF. So that is a tradition that exists in many countries already. It's a great initiative, and it's a way to bring more structure into the engagement of new faces to the IGF. So if this is something that you are interested in helping, supporting, being part of, this is very much a multi-generational effort, please do reach out to Ijan. Thank you very much. And with that, I am going to walk us through a little bit of the key messages of the morning, and then Matthew will go through the afternoon sessions. Our day started with a wonderful keynote address by Baroness Lloyd. A couple of the things that she has covered is, for example, the efforts that the United Kingdom has been taking in becoming a global leader in responsible AI development, including a responsible and ethical use of AI in public bodies, the Digital Inclusion Action Plan, which is something I encourage people to read up upon, the Online Safety Act, which are all steps into a direction of making the internet a safer place for citizens in the United Kingdom and beyond. The United Kingdom government advocates for a multi-stakeholder approach, which is why we are very supportive and excited about the UK IGF happening every year. We advocate for the private sector, the technical community, civil society, youth, and everybody else that is interested in the internet to take part in these conversations, and that was very much the minister's message today. We then moved to the digital fragmentation from a user perspective panel, which was really fascinating as we discussed the role of monopolistic infrastructure. We should think more, as some of the panelists emphasized, about being more resilient and equitable in the infrastructure that we build. And we should look for the opinions of users to see how they can best access what they need and what they legally should be also able to access. We also spoke about user education and the use of gaming actually as well, and how that can be a tool for participatory forums on the digital space. Another interesting aspect of that was a discussion on gender and human rights impact assessments. It's really important to think through the impacts that the choices we make in the digital spheres and how they impact people that want to access the internet in an unfragmented way. We then moved on to a very different topic, which was quite new for the UK IGF, and that was a workshop on AI ethics. Thank you all so much also for your really active engagement in that session. What we realized is that AI ethics runs through a lot of the components of AI. So we saw that analogy of a cake, from energy to chips, to the infrastructure layers, up to the very users and the applications of AI that we have today. Our workshop hosts identified some of the ethical concerns when they put us in groups, and we were able to discuss things from the impact of AI on labor, to the impact of AI on relationships, on education, as well as on the way that we treat our data and how we protect it as well. We hope that was a really insightful session. I certainly found there to be really fascinating questions coming out of it. With that, I hand to Matthew for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Esther. After lunch, we started with a fascinating presentation from Cecilia, really a very important debate around concentration of power, both in AI and in cloud, and throughout the entire tech stack. She talked about large tech companies like Alphabet and Microsoft gaining a lot of power by controlling data, talent, and also investments. And then she did a deep dive into cloud. She then gave us the word of the day, epistemic totalitarianism, where she talked about how that determines the trajectory of AI development, the idea that these big companies are controlling the direction of startups focused on development, they're controlling how standards work, they're controlling the entire ecosystem, even when you don't see it more obviously. She also talked about how the cloud is more than just infrastructure. It's more than just infrastructure as a service. It's a powerful ecosystem where digital tech is developed, produced, deployed, and consumed. And through this, cloud companies are able to make governments and societies become increasingly dependent on them. We heard jokes about how the world, if AWS catches a cold, the whole world gets sick. There was discussion about reimagining digital sovereignty by developing public, democratically governed technological ecosystems to help with the dependency and power control. And we got through an awful lot in a very short space of time there. The questions were also very fascinating about the linkage there between data, between economic impact, and democratic accountability. And I think there's a lot to unpack there about how those three interrelate. We then got Paul Blaker calling in from New York. Great to hear an update from WSIS in real time. And we also heard from David Suter about the two main blocks, the G77 and the EU, as he identified it, in the global north, and the reason that the risk that the difference in views between them makes it difficult to find consensus. But there's a generally positive perception of how the WSIS Plus 20 review is going and the approach the co-facilitators have taken with inclusion and experimentation with different methods of engagement, including the establishment of another acronym, the Informal Multi-Stakeholder Sounding Board, the IMSB, and bringing together a range of people across technical, civil society and business communities. It's been important for stakeholders, both government and civil society, to have a positive impact on where the WSIS process is going. And although it's not finalised yet, the mood is certainly that it's moving in the right direction. Then on digital IDs, we heard from Wendy chairing the discussion about the UK's long history of proposing ID systems and then not going ahead with them, and each version tied to the pressing social concern of the day. So then rather than just discussing about digital IDs, she made sure we framed the discussion around understanding what makes a good or a bad digital ID system. David advocated for a modern digital infrastructure for digital IDs, arguing that a system could improve public services, reduce fraud, simplify everyday life, and proposed shifting from a traditional identity-based system to one that focuses on verifying specific entitlements and not just taking all your personal information and verifying an individual. Carla discussed the importance of legal regulatory frameworks, including data protection laws, human rights assessments, and technical audits, and also focused on the importance of protecting the complexity of individual identities, regardless of how we proceed with this. America talked about current biometric systems often failing marginalized groups and gave good examples of that, with high error rates that disproportionately affect minorities. These systems, any future systems, need to be designed so that they prioritize the dignity, equality, and recognition for people that are most likely to be excluded. I thought it was interesting also talking about different examples. Estonia came up, the Netherlands came up, and both were pushed to one side. I think for good reason. But if they're not the examples we look to, what are? And then in the final session, we discussed children's rights online. We all have a responsibility to protect and support children and young people online, whether that's parents and carers, government and policymakers, or tech funds and businesses. And it was interesting to hear the group talk about there's no such thing as online life. For young people, it's just their life, with interactions, experiences, and relationships happening both online and offline. And it was interesting to talk about the Australia example as maybe creating a different world for young people there. If the parents are online, but the children are offline, what does that mean for how they interact with society in the long term? Young people want a digital space to be safe, to maximize opportunities to connect with others, and want help balancing their time online with real relationships in their local communities. And we need to work out what the structures are for that. Children's perceptions and experience of the online world vary greatly from those of adults, including parents and policymakers, and the examples of what they care about was very clear there. Children should be involved and consulted where decisions are made about anything that impacts them in the online world. And when it comes to policymaking, aspects of children's experiences are often cherry-picked to suit the direction of political travel rather than being accurate and a complete reflection. That's a whistle-stop tour through the day, a lot of really interesting panels unpacking a lot of different issues. And there, I'd like to wrap up and thank you all for coming. And I think our final job is to say drinks are now served. So see you upstairs. Thank you.
Thank you so much.